They always say you can measure a life by what you leave behind, but I never thought I'd be measuring mine by who stayed behind, or rather, who didn't. My name is Thomas, and I'm 78 years old. I've lived a long life, quiet, honest, and mostly spent providing for my family. I was never the kind of man to expect much in return, just a little warmth, a little dignity, a little respect when the bones got tired and the hands began to tremble. That's all, but life doesn't always work out the way you think it should. It starts with the small things. Missed calls, forgotten birthdays, the way your name slowly disappears from the family group chat, and before you know it, you're just a shadow walking around your own house. The same house you built with every brick paid for with overtime shifts and skipped vacations. The same house where your wife, God rest her soul, raised our children while I worked long hours at the auto shop just to put food on the table. That house meant something. It was more than just four walls. It was memory. It was sacrifice. It was sacrifice. It was love in its rawest form. I've been living in the guest room for a while. Now yes, the guest room. My son and his wife had moved in with me after losing their house during the market crash. I welcomed them with open arms. Told them this is your home now too. I thought it would be a fresh chapter, a house filled with laughter again. Instead, it became a house full of sighs and complaints. Apparently, I was too loud when I made my tea. My walking stick scratched the floor too much. My old music was annoying. I started to feel like a guest in my own home. They never said it outright, but their eyes screamed it every time. I entered the room. And then there was Liam, my grandson. He was 18, tall, smart, quick-witted, always on his phone, always muttering under his breath when I tried to speak with him. He used to sit on my lap when he was 5, asking me to tell him stories about when I was young. We used to build model airplanes together. But now, he barely looked up from his screen. I was invisible. I knew something was wrong the moment I saw my son whispering to his wife in the hallway last week. Their voices were low, but not low enough. I heard words like paperwork, transfer, and facility. I wanted to ask them, but something in me, maybe pride, kept me silent. I just listened, observed, waited. Then one morning, Liam walked into the room and said it with a kind of coldness I never thought I'd hear from someone who once called me Papa Tom. "Grandpa, you're going to the old home tomorrow." I didn't respond at first. I thought I misheard him. I looked at him, waiting for the smile, the punchline, but it never came. He didn't even look at me, just dropped the words like an afterthought and walked out. I felt the weight of 1,000 bricks on my chest. Wasn't angry. No, anger would have been easier. What I felt was a deep, sharp kind of betrayal, the kind that slices you slowly, the kind that whispers, "You gave everything, and this is what you get." But you see, they'd forgotten something about me. I may be old, I may be slow, but I'm not stupid, and I had one surprise left. I spent that night in silence, didn't speak during dinner, didn't watch the news like I usually did. Instead, I sat in the living room, watching the fire flicker in the hearth like I used to when my wife was alive. She always said I had a stubborn heart. Maybe she was right. At around midnight, when the house was quiet and everyone was asleep, I pulled out the small wooden box from the back of my closet. It was dusty, locked, and full of the things I never told anyone about. I opened it and took out the folder marked Inheritance, Personal Copy. Inside it was the original deed to the house. You see, what they didn't know was that years ago, when I got suspicious of how my son was handling my affairs, I made some changes. Big ones. I transferred the ownership of the house not to him but to someone else, someone they'd never expect. I also wrote a letter that night, a very simple one, just a few lines, but those lines would change everything. The next morning, I sat on the porch as they packed up the car like it was just another family outing. My son came out with a nervous smile, said, "It's for your own good, Dad. They'll take care of you 24/7 nurses, good meals, everything you need." I didn't argue, I just nodded, played the part, got in the car. But what happened next? Well, let's just say that's where the story truly begins. The car ride to the facility was quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the sort that weighs heavy in the air. My son was in the front seat, pretending like this was just another errand, and his wife sat beside him, scrolling through her phone like she hadn't just orchestrated the exile of the man who once gave up his retirement to help them pay off their debt. And in the back seat beside me was Liam, headphones in, head tilted toward the window, completely uninterested in what was happening. It felt like they were driving me to my own funeral. When we pulled into the lot of the care home, a nurse came out with a clipboard. She looked cheerful, far too cheerful for a place that smelled like stale air and lost time. My son got out and shook her hand like they were business partners closing a deal. I stayed seated. Let them do their talking. Let them think this was happening. But I had no intention of stepping inside that building. I turned to Liam, and for the first time in a long time, he looked at me, really looked at me. "You ever wonder what happens when you try to bury someone who's still alive?" I asked him. He took out his earbuds, confused. "What are you talking about?" I smiled, gently. "Watch what happens next." I stepped out of the car and walked past the nurse, past my son and his wife. My cane clicked against the pavement with every step. Each click was like a drumbeat in my chest. When I reached the front doors of the care home, I stopped and turned around. "I'm not staying here," I said, loud and clear. "Not today, not ever." My son laughed nervously. "Dad, don't make a scene. Let's talk inside." But I wasn't listening. Instead, I pulled out the envelope I had placed inside my coat pocket the night before. I held it up for them to see. "This," I said, "is the deed to the house. The original one. You know, the house you thought you owned." Their faces changed instantly. Confusion, panic, anger, I continued. "Years ago, I changed the beneficiary. You thought you were inheriting something that no longer belongs to you." His wife stepped forward. "You can't just change that without telling us." "I didn't need to," I said. "It's my house, it always was, and the new owner is someone who still believes in family." Liam stepped forward now, frowning. "Wait, what?" I looked at him. The boy who once helped me wash my old truck, who cried when I got sick for the first time, who used to sneak into my room just to sleep next to me after a nightmare. Somewhere in there, he was still the same little boy. He just got lost along the way I left the house to your sister, Emily, I said, turning to my son. "She's the only one who still visits, the only one who calls, the only one who remembered my birthday last year. You could have heard a pin drop. You're giving it to her." My son stammered. "She lives in another state. Come back," I said, "and even if she doesn't, that house will go to someone who doesn't treat me like a burden." The nurse tried to interrupt, but I raised my hand. "Thank you for your time. I won't be needing your services today." Then I turned and walked back to the car. My son called after me. His voice was different now, desperate. "Dad, please, you're not thinking straight. We only did this because we care about you." I stopped and looked over my shoulder. "You care about the house," I said. "Not me. If you cared about me, you'd have talked to me like a man. You'd have asked me how I felt. You wouldn't have blindsided me and shoved me into a place I didn't choose." Liam looked at his parents, then back at me. For the first time, his eyes softened. "Did you really give it to Aunt Emily?" I nodded. "But you could have told me. I would have listened." I looked him straight in the eyes. "I tried. You never wanted to hear." That's when the nurse, sensing the moment had passed, gave a polite nod and retreated inside. My son stood frozen. His wife looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Liam just looked lost. I got back in the car, this time behind the wheel. Slowly, carefully, I drove away, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. My heart was pounding, but not from fear, from something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. By the time I reached the house, the sun had dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows across the porch. I sat in the driveway for a moment, just breathing. I remembered the day we bought this place, how proud my wife looked, standing on that very porch. How the kids ran through the empty halls, with laughter in their voices, that it was never just a house, it was everything we worked for, and they tried to take it from me, like I was already gone. But I wasn't. I was still here, and I had one more chapter left in me. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat in my recliner with a blanket over my legs and watched the clock tick past midnight. Then 1 a.m., then 2. The house creaked around me like it was settling deeper into its bones, same as I had. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. The look on my son's face, the disbelief, the panic when he realized everything he thought he controlled wasn't his at all. I had been quiet for too long. I had played the part of the old man, the one they could manipulate and shuffle around like a piece of worn furniture. But I wasn't furniture, I was the foundation, and they forgot that. Emily called me early the next morning. "Dad, Liam called me last night." He sounded confused, upset. I sighed. "He's got a lot to process." "So do I." "Did you really change the deed?" she asked, gently. "I did. Years ago. Before your mother passed, we talked about it. We knew something was changing in your brother." His wife got in his ear, and money became more important than family. "You remember that Christmas he didn't show up because he was trying to close that business deal in Florida?" Emily laughed softly. "Yeah, I cooked his favorite pie and ended up taking it to the neighbors." "That was the moment," I said. "That's when we started thinking ahead." She was quiet for a while. Then she asked, "Do you need me to come home?" "You will, eventually, when the time's right. But right now, I just need to know someone out there still sees me." "I do," she said. "Always." After we hung up, I made myself a pot of coffee, just the way I liked it, strong and slightly burnt. Then I sat on the porch and watched the morning unfold. Birds fluttered across the lawn, squirrels darted through the leaves, and the world kept turning, just like it always had. I was still here, still part of it. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. I didn't even have to look. I knew it was them. My son stood there, not with the arrogance from yesterday, but with something closer to shame. His wife wasn't beside him this time, it was just him and Liam. I stepped aside and let them in, not because I had to, but because I wanted them to see what they almost destroyed. The three of us sat in the living room. No words at first, just the silence stretching between us like a bridge too damaged to cross. My son finally spoke. "Dad, I don't even know where to start." "Try the beginning," I said, "where you decided your father was better off locked away." He winced. "It wasn't like that." "Yes, it was," I replied calmly. "You made a plan without me, decided my life without asking how I felt. That's not care, that's control." Liam looked up at me. "Grandpa, I didn't know. I swear, I thought you were okay with it." "I was never asked," I said, "and you changed. You stopped coming around. You used to love this house." "I still do," he said, and I could see the truth in his eyes. I just got busy. School, friends, my job, we all get busy," I said, "but you make time for what matters. And if you don't, eventually, those things disappear." My son leaned forward. "I messed up. I know that now. I was thinking about long-term care, about your health, your future." I cut him off. "No, you were thinking about convenience, and maybe a little about the inheritance. You didn't want to deal with what it means to take care of someone who took care of you." He dropped his eyes. I continued. "Let me be clear. I'm not angry about aging. I'm angry that I was discarded before I was even gone. I'm still capable, still standing, still thinking. But you treated me like a burden." "I'm sorry," he said. "I can't change what I did, but I want to do better. If you let me." There was a long pause. Then Liam spoke again. "Grandpa, can I come by more often? Help with the yard, maybe fix up the truck." My heart squeezed. That truck had sat idle for years, gathering dust. "You still remember how to change the oil? I can learn again." He smiled. For the first time in days, I felt something shift inside me, a sliver of hope, a sign that maybe the story wasn't over yet. "All right," I said, "we'll start with the tires. They're flat as your dad's excuses." Liam laughed, and even my son cracked a smile. We spent the rest of the afternoon walking through the house. I pointed out the marks on the wall from when the kids were growing up. The scratch on the kitchen counter from the time Emily tried to carve a watermelon, the loose tile in the hallway I always meant to fix. This house was more than wood and nails, it was memory, history, love, and no one was going to take that from me while I was still breathing before they left. I handed my son a small envelope. He opened it and stared at the paper inside. "This is a letter to my lawyer," I said. "It confirms that Emily owns the house after I'm gone. It's not a punishment. It's a reward for loyalty. For kindness she earned it." He nodded. "Quiet. I hope you understand." I added, "I do," he said. "I really do." As they walked out the door, Liam turned back and gave me a hug, one of those real, tight hugs like he used to when he was a kid. "Thanks, Grandpa." "No," I said, holding him for a moment. "Longer. Thank you for remembering." They drove off, and I stood there watching until their car disappeared down the road. Then I turned, stepped back inside, and shut the door gently behind me. This house was still mine, and so was my story. The house felt a little warmer the next morning. Not because the temperature changed, but because something in me had settled. I sat by the window, drinking my coffee, and for the first time in a while, I didn't feel like I was waiting for life to end. I felt like I was still part of it. The birds outside chirped like they were telling me it was a new day. I smiled. Maybe it was. Later that afternoon, Liam showed up again. This time, he wasn't alone. He brought his toolbox, a pair of gloves, and a grin that stretched from ear to ear. I figured we'd get started on the truck. "Grandpa." I nodded, grabbed my old cap from the hook by the door, and followed him out. The truck was still there, sitting in its usual spot, tired and dusty like it had stories of its own waiting to be told again. We lifted the hood, and he started talking about engines, belts, filters, and things I'd once known like the back of my hand. But now, I was just happy to watch him talk. Happy to see some spark in his eyes. Not the kind of spark that screens and phones give you, but real joy, the kind that comes from getting your hands dirty and doing something with purpose. As we worked, he told me about school, about the pressure to figure out his life, about how sometimes he felt like he was failing before he even started. I listened. I didn't try to fix anything. I just listened, because sometimes that's all someone needs. To be heard. I think that's what I had wanted all along, just to be heard. Later that evening, he stayed for dinner. We didn't do anything fancy, just grilled cheese and tomato soup, but he said it was the best meal he'd had in months. I laughed, told him it was because I used real butter. Not that fake spread his dad always buys. We laughed a lot that night, and for a moment, everything felt like it used to. Just a grandfather and grandson, sitting at the table, talking about life, with the clock ticking softly in the background and the world outside slowing down for us. Before he left, he hesitated at the door. "Grandpa," he said, "I'm sorry for not coming round. I didn't know how much I missed this." "You're young," I replied. "You're supposed to mess up a little, but you showed up when it mattered. That's what counts." "I'll be back tomorrow," he said. "We're gonna make that truck purr again." I chuckled. "Better. Start praying now." When he left, I stood at the window again. This time, I wasn't watching someone disappear. I was watching someone return. And that made all the difference. The next few weeks brought small changes that felt like miracles. Emily visited with her 2 kids, and they played in the backyard just like their dad used to. My son even joined us. One weekend he brought me a pie. It was store-bought, but the gesture meant something. He didn't say much, but I could see he was trying. Maybe guilt brought him here the first time, but effort brought him back. I still kept the letter locked in the drawer. My final say in who this home would belong to, but I stopped thinking of it as a threat. It was just insurance now. A quiet promise that I would never be invisible again. And as time went on, I realized something else. They had tried to put me in a home because they didn't think I had anything left to give. They thought I was just waiting. But I wasn't waiting. I was watching. I was remembering. And now, I was teaching again. One evening, Liam and I sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky, orange and purple. He turned to me and said, "You ever think about what life would have been like if you had left?" I nodded. All the time. And I'd be sitting in a chair in a hallway, staring at beige walls, waiting for someone to remember I was alive. He looked down. "I'm sorry that we made you feel that way. I forgave you already," I said. "The moment you walked back in with that toolbox." He smiled, and we sat in silence again. Sometimes the most powerful things are the ones we don't say. You know, the funny thing about aging is that everyone assumes it means fading. But the truth is, it's not about fading, it's about distilling, getting stronger, sharper, wiser. The things I've seen, the lessons I've learned, the people I've loved, they're all still here, inside me, and I'm not done yet. My legs might ache, my back might groan when I bend down, but my mind, my heart, they're still wide awake. And I think my family finally sees that. They tried to put me away. Instead, I put my foot down. And sometimes, that's all it takes to remind people that you're still in the room. If you're watching this right now, maybe you're someone who's felt forgotten. Maybe you've been pushed aside, told you're too old, too weak, too quiet. Let me tell you something. You still matter. Your voice still echoes. Your story isn't over, and if you've got a surprise left in you, now's the time to use it. Let them see the fire that never really went out. Let them feel your presence. Because this world isn't just for the young. It's for the bold. It's for the wise. It's for the ones who refuse to be erased. If this story moved you, if you've got someone you love who needs to hear this, or if you're ready to stand up for yourself or someone else, don't just watch. Share this video. Leave a comment. Tell your story, because someone out there is waiting to feel seen. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one who helps them light that fire again. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one with the loudest truth. Take care of your elders. And take care of yourself. We'll see you in the next story.